What up, people? Good people. We back in the Spizat. This is episode 2 of In the AM with MC. We're talking sports. We're talking NFL today. Hopefully, this episode drops before the divisional games, which are coming up this weekend. I'm recording this on January 16th. So if I drop this in the next day, it'll be, but we're finagling some stuff with the podcast. And either way, all of these predictions are these predictions. What we're going to do today is we're going to name some NFL postseason award name some NFL awards after the season's over. We're going to talk about the New York Giants, and we're gonna pick a Super Bowl favorite. So I'm just checking right now what these matchups are, so I can have them right in front of me. Okay. First of all, shoot. I'll edit this. Damn, where's the NFL? Are you serious? Okay, NFL postseason awards. Let's briefly just go through this. I don't really care for a lot of the discourse that's happening about MVP because the arguments all suck. The arguments all suck. And none of these arguments were present when Brett Favre or Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady started winning more than 2 MVPs. But we don't want to say what Lamar Jackson has become. Lamar Jackson is a Madden player. He's broken the game. And the ball he throws is nice. If I had to criticize Lamar about the way he throws the ball, it would be knowing when to put zip on it because he doesn't throw the tightest football. Like there are people who can throw the piss out of the ball much better than he can, specifically Sam Darnold as a guy right off the top of my head who can throw a harder ball than Lamar. That doesn't mean that it's a more accurate ball. Sometimes Lamar, when he puts the ball in tight windows, he can't the flick motion that he likes to do. He has to put a little bit more zip on the ball. I'd like to see him do that. I haven't watched enough of the Bills games to forge an argument against Josh Allen, but this is not what it's about. And that's one of the problems. People think that Josh Allen or any of these other candidates, I would argue Joe Burrow is a solid candidate despite not making the playoffs because what he did was disgustingly good. It was just precision. It was surgical. But the issue is like, we don't have to create arguments to say why these other people lost. Lamar Jackson has won his 3rd MVP outright in a glorious fashion. Josh Allen is also playing some of his best football and some of his safest football. Remember, he used to be a turnover machine his first 3 years in the league. He's playing safe football. Okay. It's no issue about the way that Josh Allen is playing football. That being said, it would be funny if this game went one way, but the awards went the other way. Like if Lamar Jackson just flamed out and lost, but he won MVP, or if Josh Allen flamed out and lost, but then he wins MVP. It would be pretty funny because this game is going to be looked at for years down the line as one of those games that decides in the quote unquote all-time lexicon, do you like Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson more? It's not fair to Lamar. Even when Lamar struggled the most, he was never turning the ball over in the way that Josh Allen was. This is his first year throwing for more than 40 touchdown passes in his first year throwing for more than 4,000 yards. Josh Allen has had 5 years in a row where he has thrown for 4,000 yards. That is unprecedented. No one else has done that. Not even Drew Brees, who has the most 5,000 yard seasons. No one else has done that. So Josh Allen is playing his best football, his safest football. He is the alpha. He's the alpha of his team. But it's not fair to Lamar. He set his own precedent when he won his 2nd MVP. It's like, this is the level that I can play at my best. And now that he's eclipsed that, we're all shaking our head, asking ourselves, well, what do we do now? You give him the 3rd MVP. You give him the MVP because he's the most valuable player. He's the player that your whole game plan is about if you're on defense. He's the player that empowers you as an offensive player. Rashad Bateman was an afterthought coming into this year. Zay Flowers, undersized slot receiver, very good player. But there are some questions surrounding Zay Flowers. They both had career years under Lamar Jackson. Isaiah Likely is and I mean, you gotta just tip your cap to Baltimore in the way that they scheme personnel because they find a way to utilize 3 different tight ends and a fullback and 3 running backs, and they run their quarterback. They find a way to use all these guys. It's not rocket science. For those coaches who struggle to scheme personnel offensively in this today's day and age, the way that offense has moved towards innovatively, this is your fault. He has all of these things at his disposal. and he's using them. And he's got Pro Bowl. I'm speaking about Harbaugh and Lamar here, and also Todd Monken now, and a little bit of Roman. Roman caught some flack, but Todd Monken had the most rushing yards for any offense ever with the guys that they have this year that they trotted out. They have injuries. They have some guys who aren't great, like Falele, guard, not great. Doesn't matter. Baltimore's a machine. Give Lamar the MVP. That's all I have to say about that. Defensive player of the year. It's not going to go to him, but I think you have to give it to Surtain. Trey Hendrickson has got a great case. 17 and a half sacks. Absolute dog for the Bengals defense. I think Zach Bond has got a case for the Eagles. He's playing with some great guys on the back end, some great guys in front of him. But Zach Bond has just been on a different level this year. When I think defensive guys, I think that the Texans have probably the best defense left in the playoffs. The Texans are a team that defensively can achieve a lot of things. The Lions as well. You have Carby Joseph. You have Brian Branch. You have some of those guys. I think Terrion Arnold is nursing something, so that'll be interesting to monitor when they play the Commanders. The Rams have a ridiculous defensive line, young defensive line. I don't think any of those guys stand out as like an option for defensive player of the year. But like I said, if I have a vote, I give it to PS2. I think he's locked down that side of the field in a way that we haven't seen in a lot of years. And I think Patrick Surtain is what people talk about Sauce Gardner as. Sauce Gardner is a phenomenal player, big rangy guy, but he doesn't have the foot speed to accompany his other traits. There's a lot of times you watch Sauce, if he's, it's hard to chase a deep cross, right? It's hard to play deep choice when teams want to run that kind of stuff. But you always see him trailing. You don't see McDuffie trailing in those ways. You don't see some of the shorter corners trailing in those ways. But then when you see Surtain, who's a bigger guy and he's strong, he's not trailing either. Surtain is step for step with all these guys. The Broncos defense was absolutely immaculate this year, and I think that Bo Nix has the potential to lead them. And I apologize, I was not a Bo Nix believer. I'll say that. So I think that they have got potential, and it all starts with that defense, and it all starts with PS2. Coach of the year, I think that that's undoubtedly going to be Dan Campbell. I think Dan Campbell has been the standard for what a coach should be. And I think that if it's not him, I wouldn't really be happy with it going to anyone other than Dan Quinn or Sean McVay. Sean McVay has been coaching his tail off. They committed to a full rebuild in LA, and he still managed to get them in the playoffs and win a playoff game in deciding fashion. They have the Eagles this week. We're going to preview that game in a second. As far as other awards, I can't really think of them right now. Who cares? Okay. Let's talk about the New York Giants for a second. 3-13, very disappointing. 3-14, disappointing season. They were one loss away from becoming the only team to go 0-9 at home for the entire course of the season. How did it go so wrong? What do you mean paying Daniel Jones $40 million over paying Saquon Barkley $13 million a year was a mistake? You serious? Yes. When it rains, it pours, especially in the NFL. When you have guys like Daniel Jones leading or supposedly leading a team that has better players on it, when he's not leading, the players in the middle are going to look at those better players as the de facto leader and say, hey, what do we do now? Or they're going to follow them. So if, for example, Kayvon Thibodeau doesn't have a great year, right? Some people are looking at him like, well, he's not playing hard and he's a franchise guy. Why am I playing hard? We're clearly not bought in as a franchise. We're clearly not trying to win as a franchise. Deonte Banks was given CB1 duties this year, and that was a terrible decision. I did not like Banks' film coming out of college. I thought that, playing at a school like Maryland, you see a lot of great receivers, but I think that what he was able to do was not even close to the maximum efficiency or the maximum productivity that would be possible in their defensive scheme, considering what he was doing. I think that he underperformed. So you don't look at that guy and go, we want him. You know, Quinyon Mitchell was a guy that I'm going to lose sleep over not getting last year. I think they got him like 27th or something. I wanted Quinyon Mitchell. I wrote an article about it when I first talked about fixing the New York Giants. So let's try this again, because guess what? The New York Giants play in the NFC East. Last time I checked, the NFC East has 2 teams that are left in the playoffs, the Eagles and the Commanders, both of which have dynamic quarterbacks, dynamic defenses, are well-coached football teams. And next year, the Cowboys, who had a down year this year and who lost their quarterback and now their head coach, should be back in the fold. They're too good to not be back in the fold. They're America's team. The NFL is going to make sure they're back in the fold. They want them on TV. So what do you do if you're New York? You're New York. You're the New York Giants. Here's what you do. The first thing you do is you sign Justin Fields. You need a mobile quarterback. Eli Manning, Kerry Collins, it's done. I want Justin Fields. What do you do outside of Fields for the quarterback room? You get 2 guys who can move around. You get one guy who's like a real deal veteran, and then you get a rookie. As far as the rookie, I think that you probably want a Milroe, a McCord, or a Jackson Dart. I think that it's bait for the Giants to be a top 3 pick in a year that doesn't have a great quarterback class. But you also can't just draft. Quarterback's not just a plug-and-play position. Will Levis and Malik Willis were players that I think were good enough to succeed in the right circumstances, but they were plugged in and told to play for a Tennessee team that's run poorly and that doesn't have a lot around them. So, I mean, you draft a guy right after you traded A.J. Brown. Who am I going to throw the ball to? What's the guy they got? Brooks or something? Who am I going to throw the ball to? You just let go of my receiver. This guy's a 2-time All-Pro for the Titans. You just let him go. Who am I going to throw the ball to? In Daniel Jones's case, you drafted these receivers. Your neighbors went over 1,000. You know, you got all these guys, but you can't foresee Darren Waller retiring, right? Darren Waller retires. You need to make it an intentional thing to ingratiate a tight end into the offense from a receiving standpoint in a way that Jones can be successful. There's no coincidence that one of Daniel Jones' best years was one of Evan Ingram's best years. There's no coincidence. Daniel Jones likes to throw in the middle of the defense, whether he's throwing to us or to them. So schematically, the Giants didn't do a lot to help Daniel Jones. You draft Justin Fields. I think that you put Justin Fields in a not in a vanilla offense, but in an offense where he doesn't have to make a lot of decisions, in an offense where he has limited pre-snap reads, the kind of pre-snap read where it's like you see this, you run, you see this, you pass. And if you don't see that guy, you hit that guy. If you don't see that guy, you run. Always give him a check down. Always give him something in the flat. You know, Justin Fields has hardly ever helped. You don't have a guy have 2 games in a row where he has 200 yards rushing the football from the quarterback position and say he can't play. Can he not play, or is he not being put in a position to play? Right? I want Fields. I think you cut guys who are moping, guys who are kind of dragging around, who can't help you. Jalen Hyatt, I think you trade him. I like Hendon Hooker as a name from the Lions. Hendon Hooker's a good guy. Stand-up guy. He slipped in the draft because of injuries, but he put Tennessee in a place Tennessee has not been in a while, you know, and they almost got back there this year, but he put them in a great place, gave them some national attention, national energy. I think Hendon Hooker is a guy you have to look into. I think you package Hyatt in the 7th, get Hooker, you know, still on a rookie deal. If he doesn't work, you got Justin Fields. If he doesn't work, you got a rookie from the draft, or you got, you know, defensively, we need help on the back end. We need a real deal safety who can set the tone for the team. We have a phenomenal defensive tackle in Dexter Lawrence, but it's about positioning in the defense. There's not a lot of defensive tackles who can make that much of a difference on a team with what they say and do, because they're in the front. Think about it. They're here. Some guys are with them. 2nd layer, 3rd layer. A lot of times with the way football is the speed at which the game, Dexter Lawrence is not having a conversation with Deonte Banks mid-game. He's not like, hey, Banks, that's you. That's your deep half. Hey, Banks, you're wearing quarters. He's not talking to Banks about the coverage. So I think you need a guy who can really be the mediator of all 3 levels, but especially that 3rd layer. If Kyle Hamilton had a twin brother, I would draft him. Kyle Hamilton is one of the most impressive football players I've ever seen. And I think that he is a guy that the Giants, that would immediately change the culture of the Giants. One name that I do want you to keep an eye out on, if you're the New York Giants, is Brian Cook, safety. He played alongside Kobe Bryant and Sauce Gardner during the year that Cincinnati went to the college football playoff. And he had an interception off of Bryce Young, which is partially one of the reasons that he was able to get drafted to the Chiefs. Since Mr. Cook has been in the league, the Chiefs have been in the Super Bowl pretty much, routinely. Their back end has played great. When it was him, Snead, McDuffie, and Justin Reed, they were just lights out. And you package Cookie, they used to call him Cookie, but you package Cook with a guy who, like a rangier guy. I see Cook as a more in the box, but he's so versatile, he can do both. So I think if you have Cook in the box and you put a rangy guy behind Cook, that you can really create some magic, and that those are great locker room guys. But again, what do I know? All I really know is that Tyrone Tracy really helped a lot of Giants fans go to sleep at night, including John Mara, because Tyrone Tracy is a great player. He's a phenomenal player. But you found one of the best players that you've had in recent memory. You found that guy in like the 5th round. So that says a lot about drafting, right? You need to be intentional with who you draft. You can't waste high picks. You can't have these picks and go home with Eric Flowers. You can't have these picks and go home with Daniel Jones. You can't do that. So if you're going to continue to get these picks, you need to make sure that you're picking the Dexter Lawrences and the Malik Neighborses of the world, or don't pick it all. Okay. All right. Enough of fixing the Giants, huh? Let's preview some of these divisional games. We have the Houston Texans at the Kansas City Chiefs. I think the Chiefs take this game the whole way. The Texans, like I said, have a great defense that'll disrupt you, but Pat Mahomes showed us the last time he won a Super Bowl that he can win without that alpha guy as a receiver. He can win without a Tyreek Hill. He doesn't need a dynamic back behind him. He just needs a back that can do enough. Like every guy around Pat Mahomes on offense is a guy that can do enough to not mess up Pat Mahomes being Pat Mahomes. So I think that the Chiefs just have too much firepower. I think if they lose this game or if they get into trouble, it'll be their own doing. I don't think that the Texans can do anything that'll really make the Chiefs uncomfortable. They have a very dynamic defensive line with Daniil Hunter and Danico Autry, and co. But I don't know. I think that the Chiefs just kind of spread out their linebackers a little bit, and then they start to take over the game. Okay. I'm not into betting and all that. I can't stand it. So I'm not going to give you a line or a total point, prediction or any of that junk. I don't believe in that stuff. All right. Washington Commanders at the Detroit Lions. Let's just give a hand for the way that the Detroit Lions draft football players. Let's give a hand for how they draft football players, because I predicted Sam Laporta would be how good he was last year when all my buddies were drafting fantasy. Tight end doesn't come around till whenever, and people always go Kelsey, Kittle, and then all the other tight ends just hang in the balance. And for a while, Darren Waller was kind of that third guy. And now it's like, who's the guy? Dallas Goedert's an option. Zach Ertz. Like, these are guys that are always in the fray. But who is a legitimate receiving tight end, or a tight end that can, kind of do it all? Swiss Army knife kind of guy. Laporta. Laporta last year was just a demon. And Brock Bowers, this is an unpopular opinion, but Brock Bowers should be the offensive rookie of the year solo. He should not be co-offensive rookie of the year with Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels should not win the award over him. Brock Bowers caught 100 balls for 1,100 yards from the likes of Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell on the worst team in the league. This is not a guy doing this. Like, yeah, it would be more impressive if he was on the Lions currently or whatever doing this. You're in the playoffs. We're seeing it. He's doing this for the Raiders. Jaden Daniels has so much support that it almost deters from his case. And whatever, you can say that shouldn't count. Who cares if he has Cliff Kingsbury and he changed the whole offense for him? Who cares if he has Terry McLaurin? Who cares if he has some really good running backs by committee? Who cares if the Washington Commanders defense is playing really well as a unit? Not a lot of individual great guys. I think the best guy for them this year has probably been Frankie Louvu, but as a unit, they're playing very well. Who cares, Mike? Who cares? He's Jaden Daniels is better than da. No, Jaden Daniels is not playing better than Brock Bowers. You can't convince me of that. Brock Bowers was drafted to a team that spent their first round pick the year before on a different tight end who looks like every tight end from the 1940s, Michael Mayer, and who was supposed to be that receiving threat to take over for them. And Brock Bowers said, no, I'm better than that. And then he came in and showed us. But anyway, I think that the Commanders can get themselves into a comfortable position if they play complementary football. The Lions are the best team in the NFL on special teams. So they're going to have to disrupt the Lions and make them uncomfortable on special teams. They're going to have to take some risks. The onside kick, as we know it, is kind of dead. So is that going to be a 4th and 1? Is it going to be a 4th and 3 where they just go for it, where they're in no man's land? They're going to have to take a risk to win this game. They can win it, though. This is a winnable game. The Lions are not going to fall into that 1 week bye hangover trap. They're going to come out swinging. They're going to play Lion football. They always do. So if they have a trick play they like that week, they're going to run it. If they want to run a Amon-Ra on 17 shallow crosses in a row, they're going to do it. They're going to play Lion football. But above all, the man that I think that we're not talking about enough is Jahmyr Gibbs. Jahmyr Gibbs is in limited capacity just Alvin Kamara. He's legitimately just Alvin Kamara. But he's got another back he's playing with. Doesn't matter because right now that back's not playing. So the other week he had 4 touchdowns and they all were legit football big boy touchdowns because that's who Jahmyr Gibbs is. And if you doubted him because he went to Georgia Tech, boy, oh boy, oh boy. Right? That is one caveat from the transfer portal discussion that I had on the last episode is that some of these guys like a Brian Cook or like a Jahmyr Gibbs have to go play SEC football or in Cookie's case, AAC football and make it to the college football playoff to get that recognition and get that visibility. But once they're there and they're there for life. The Rams and the Eagles. I don't like this game for the Rams. I don't like this game for the Eagles. I don't like this game for the Eagles at all. Nick Sirianni is not a great coach to me. Nick Sirianni is a very, very juvenile. You've seen the way that he's interacted with some fans. You've seen the way that he's interacted with some coaches, some players. He's very juvenile. Someone has to be the adult. And even though we're speaking of a league of men, of grown men, you think about when certain things happen that can create issues. Who is going to be the one that delivers the unpopular opinion? Who's going to be the one that hops in there and says, we're not doing this, or this is the way we do things? A guy like Antonio Pierce, a guy like Mike Tomlin, a guy like Andy Reid even would step in and be the adult. Like those are coaches that I never have to question, are you the adult? And it's not about being a player's coach. It's about being the adult. Sirianni, more often than not, is a guy you've had to ask yourself, are you the adult in the room? Are you, or are you just in the room and you like being in the room? And when we hoist the trophy up, you'll like being in the room. This game is going to suck for the Eagles offense because Saquon Barkley is going to have to deal with all of those speedy rushers on the front end and all those very skilled defensive backs on the back end. And Saquon Barkley is a receiving back as well. So you put him on a route. Now he's matched up with Jacoby Durant. Right? Wouldn't happen a ton where you get the running back corner duo, but I think you get the point, right? There are a lot of capable athletic guys on the Rams defense that will make life for the Eagles offense hard. That being said, the Rams offense is the most frequent user of pre-snap motion. I think they're at like 28% or 29% of plays now, up from like 23 or 24% a couple of years ago. They have big, strong receivers like Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp. They are a well-coached, well-oiled machine, and you know McVay has experience. McVay has won a Super Bowl. He won a Super Bowl. Like, he has experience. He used to be that the youngest coach in the league. Y'all remember that? He was the youngest guy in the league, and everyone kind of was like, here's the guy who's joining us. Now he's here. Now he's a force to be reckoned with. And even though on paper, Sirianni and his team are four games better than the Eagles, Sirianni's not 4 games better of a coach than McVay. So McVay is really filling in a lot of those gaps. So from a coaching perspective, I take them. From a quarterback perspective, I take the Eagles because of the way that Jalen Hurts can run that offense. But Matthew Stafford's a Super Bowl winning quarterback. I don't like this game for the Eagles. This is an ugly game for the Eagles. So if they can pull this one out, they will have earned my respect. And good luck to them. Final game here. Ravens Bills. This is the game of the week. Game of the week, game of the century, perhaps. Ravens Bills. The spread, I know I said I didn't want to talk about betting. The spread is -1. So that means that odds makers think that this is going to be a 1-point game in Baltimore's favor. I see this game going a multitude of ways, but I think that the key for Baltimore is going to be to not abandon your identity. Up front, the Bills are going to bully them on the offensive side of the football because of who they have. They play with 6 linemen a lot of the times, and they're 6 big dudes. They have the same backfield as the Ravens, but it's flipped position-wise. James Cook is Lamar Jackson. I'm talking about build here. And Derrick Henry is Josh Allen as far as build. It's going to be 8 degrees. So you have to give carries to those guys. You have to, for both teams, you have to make this a running football game. But you have to be smart and you have to take shots on first down. If I'm the Ravens, right? You break them down. You have a drive. You break them down. Derrick Henry, 8 yards. Lamar Jackson, 14 yards. Keaton Mitchell, couple yards. Break them down. When you get between the 40s, take a shot. Take a shot. Send somebody down the field. You can run Mark Andrews on a tight end leak. He can still beat a lot of guys with his foot speed. I think a play that works for them a lot when they get in a jam is QB power with Lamar Jackson. They also run QB lead a lot of time with like Ricard kind of, getting out of the way for him. Like the running game has got to be the running game. But the winner of this game is going to be decided by who takes shots at the right times because there's not going to be a lot of shots to take with the weather, with the circumstances, with the environment. If you're Josh Allen, I think this is one of those games where you have to play exactly how you've been playing. Josh Allen is so smart. So I think that part of him might want to, try to play against Kyle Hamilton or play against Marlon Humphrey. But you have to play against the Ravens if you're Josh Allen. So as far as predictions for that game, I'm going to take the Bills. I'm going to take the Bills by 3 points. Just to run it back, I got the Chiefs by a mile. I got the Lions, but the Commanders can make it interesting. I got the Rams over the Eagles, and I got the Bills by 3. Okay, that wraps it up this week for AM and the MC. Excuse me, MC and the AM. My bad. Thanks for rocking with us. Episode 3 on the way. Deuces.